trying to take a step back and look at it, but I love Dalton Kincaid. I'm a big fan. And it is obvious that Josh Allen is looking for him. There's any sign of trouble, that's his outlet, dude. He's going to him again and again and again. Last 3 games, Dalton Kincaid, 23 grabs on 26 targets, 221 yards and a touchdown. So he's been averaging 74 over the last 3 games. His prop numbers, 5.5 catches, 52.5 yards. I still like going over. And let's look at tight ends against the Broncos. It's probably not fair because they've already seen Kelsey twice. So, but last time they actually did all right against them. Against the position between Kelsey and Gray, it was 8 for 83, and Kelsey also had a big game earlier in the season, 124 yards, 9 catches on 9 targets. So if we look elsewhere, were there some other games where the tight end position had a good game against the Broncos? Yes, there were. The Jets tight ends had 81 yards. Tyler Conklin, 67 of them. The Bears had 111 yards. Cole Kmet had 85. Robert Tonyan, who nobody has seen all year for the Bears, he had a couple of catches. Let's see, Commanders game, 89 yards in that one. John Bates, 46. Logan Thomas, 22. Cole Turner, 22. So tight end position has been producing against this Broncos defense, and I'm sure we can make the case that any position has been producing against this Broncos defense. But I like Kincaid here, and he's almost 2-1 for a touchdown, 15-1 for 2 touchdowns. But really looking at the receptions because Allen keeps on going to him, and if you're the Broncos defense, I'm sure they're stressing Stephon Diggs more than Kincaid. We talked to Aaron Schatz last week about DVOA, and he stressed how bad this Bills defense has been over the last month or so, with the injuries piling up. Micah Hyde, their safety, is now out. Well, he joins Matt Milano, Daquan Jones, Trey White, Elam, on that defense. Like, they're missing key components. It's no surprise that over the last month they've been a bottom 3 to a bottom 5 defense. So there is no chance in hell that I would go under in this game. I know it's a little bit of a higher number. We're sitting at 47.5 right now, and it was below that 47 last week. It was 46.5, but now 47.5. I get that move to the over. I understand it. If I'm betting a total, I would only go over, and I'm not going to bet it. I'll be cheering for my teaser as far as side total. A lot of people I trust on Denver taking that 7. There's a reason, Aaron, it went from 7.5 down to a flat 7.
Yeah, and JLC likes it too. I don't know why. I'm just not interested in getting involved in the side here. Looking forward to seeing the game, but both these teams are capable of doing, I guess, over exceeding expectations or just being flat out bad. So I think this is a pass for me, all on the side and the total. Definitely like some props here. You mentioned Stephon Diggs, and I know this is a digression here, but there is a hilarious Instagram video where a reporter is asking the players in the locker room who they would not want to date their sister, and everyone was like, without a doubt, Stephon Diggs. And then they got to Diggs, and he's like, dang, I'm a great guy. I don't know what they're talking about. It was
But isn't that how that works, though?
I watched it 3 times. I was dying laughing. He definitely got thrown under the bus. I don't know when that was. It might be really old.
Josh Allen, first off, has been fantastic. Now, he needs to be sensational and perhaps even transcendent because of all of these Bills defensive injuries for Buffalo to make a real run to the Super Bowl here. That is a fair point. But in terms of, is he playing well? Absolutely, he's playing well. 2nd in CPOE, 4th in EPA per dropback. Josh Allen is due for positive regression when it comes to the scoreboard, not so much his advanced numbers. He's just fine as far as that's concerned. And then with Russell Wilson, look, he's not a bad quarterback, folks. He might be mediocre, he might be average, but he's not terrible. He can complete passes against safety coverages, but he also has a high sack rate against them at greater than 8%. So I look at this and say, when those split safety coverages come out, don't be surprised if there is a strip sack or a fumble of some kind by Russell Wilson, or maybe an interception where he's trying to force the issue, and then Josh Allen gets a short field. That's why I think the Bills cover this. That's why I think this game can very well go over. But then when you're going to the prop market, this to me is really fascinating because there are a lot of really interesting ways to play this. Dalton Kincaid, most bet on ticket props per BetMGM to score an anytime touchdown is plus 210. Stephon Diggs to score the first touchdown is at 6-1. Joe, there are a lot of really interesting places in the prop market that will keep me fixated on Monday night.
CeeDee Lamb is not getting enough respect still. I'm looking this morning, and he's still 45-1 for Offensive Player of the Year. He's 30 yards behind A.J. Brown. And CeeDee Lamb did basically nothing the first month of the season. That's the kind of tear that he's on right now. And the idea of wide receiver winning the Offensive Player of the Year, I'm behind because we saw it last 2 years, Jefferson and Kupp. If we want to branch out to 4 years, Michael Thomas won it. So 3 of the last 4 winners have been wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb, he's the first receiver in NFL history with 3 straight games of 10-plus catches and 150 yards. First time that has ever happened in the NFL. And he's 45-1 to win Offensive Player of the Year, and A.J. Brown's 5-1? I don't understand it. I don't get it. People always talk about the Cowboys players get pumped up. They get so much love. The betting market's always out of whack with the Cowboys. For some reason, that is not the case with CeeDee Lamb, and I don't understand it. Start putting some respect on this guy's name. He's a top 3 receiver in the league.
I got killed on social media, guys. Like, destroyed. I'm talking about haters who don't even follow me, coming out of the woodworks, talking about when a woman talks sports, I immediately disregard. Like, I got slammed for deciding that I was going to back the Jags on the spread against the Niners. And I am here to tell you, hand up, I should be, because they lost 34-3, in case you didn't pay attention to that one. The Jags offense, what is going on? I thought you were going to take a step forward in the Doug Peterson era, and actually it's been the defense that's looked better. How do you explain this? Where has Calvin Ridley been still? This is head scratching to me, and I look like an absolute fool for thinking that they could hang with the Niners. Now, part of that was I was hoping Trent Williams was not going to play, because when I said that was on Thursday and we didn't know for sure. However, oh my goodness, just an epic disaster in that matchup. I don't know who I should put in jail, myself, the Jaguars. I'm just upset.
I am actually approaching this game a little differently, and I'd love to know what you think about this process, guys, because I'm not looking at the spread at all in a game like this, because if the Bengals lose outright, they are done in the AFC North. There is no more optimism that they can win this division, and the conversation will only be about, can they make the playoffs? Because they lose, then they're swept by the Ravens. They have a 2-game deficit, and they don't have the tiebreaker against Baltimore. And you also have the Browns and the Steelers, who somehow, some way are still in the mix for this division. I think the Bengals are done if they lose this game. And so I think the process is, if you think Cincinnati should still be in the running, that somehow they can put all of this together and Joe Burrow can still be unbelievable, then take them on the money line or an alt spread at Bengals -1, -2, whatever. But money line right now is at +165. I think that's the only play you can make if you believe that the Bengals can still contend in this division. Because if they lose this game, they're done.
Well, all I was being asked last week at the beginning of the week is, how are the Baltimore Ravens ever going to lose a game again? And who could you possibly ever put ahead of the Baltimore Ravens on your power rankings? And Jason, what? You thought they might not make the playoffs. You're such a jackass. Like, clearly they're going to run the table and beat everybody by 30 points or more into perpetuity. And my response was, well, I have 2 critical areas of concern with them. And maybe here's why I haven't anointed them the way some others have. They don't have a GD wide receiver on that roster who can make a play downfield. Zay Flowers makes them underneath and intermediate. It's still Mark Andrews and nobody else. And this defense is inclined to crap the bed in the fourth quarter when it matters most. And I'm not sure they've overcome either of those, right? They just gave up 175 yards and 17 points to Arizona in the fourth quarter, an Arizona team that had 7 fourth quarter points all season coming in. So you could tell me, well, they didn't care about that game and it was so far. And you know what? I bought a lot of that. But against Cleveland, when you've got the early 17-point cushion, and then James Prochet, former Raven, muffs a punt, and then you get a bunch of calls from the officials to sustain that drive, and you go up by 14 with 11 and change to play at home against the Browns offense that had been terrible pretty much all season, and you give that up. That's exactly why I was one of the ones. Like Carl Dukes and I got into it on the In the Huddle podcast last week. He's like, oh, well, you just can't say that they're the best team in football. I'm like, well, I have major concerns. They don't have anybody who wins on the outside. Because even the tight end, it's mostly over the middle. I don't see a receiver on this roster who wins downfield on the outside. And I don't know that this defense closes out games when they really need it. And